I'm just not happy about it. I don't have like a candidate in mind outside of like just the heart candidate is Don Mattingly's not contracted anywhere anymore. Not that he's a good manager by any means, but just if we're going with a bad manager, let's go with Donnie. Like why go with Aaron Boone? Aaron Boone had one good moment. Donnie baseball. Like let's go back to the pure Yankees here. But yeah, I mean. It's just, whoever it is. Like, I would prefer some kid from, some genius math student, 35-year-old from MIT or something like that, rather than who just makes the wrong decision. Totally undecided about. I
hated
want somebody
him
over-executing on the analytics.
See, that's what Girardi was doing, and then it would, almost backfire.
But see, I didn't dislike Girardi. Girardi got, he got rode out of town on a rail in Philly, and obviously that team turned around. So.
Yeah, and I didn't hate Girardi. Maybe I'm too attached to people because I hated Boone the first season because he would just not stand up for the team, and now he leads the league in ejections a year. So I appreciate that about him, but
sure.
Yeah, give him a nerd assistant. He doesn't even have to get fired. Give him somebody to
kind of like how Torrey needed Don Zimmer as the bench coach to make the the X's and O's decisions, and Torrey was the leader of men kind of a thing. You'd do it the other way around. Oh yeah. What's happening, Stokastic basketball fans? We're chatting a little bit of baseball behind the scenes here, as you guys probably heard before the stream started, but this is a basketball show. We'll be back to talk World Series tomorrow. We're brought to you by No House Advantage today. We're going to go through a bunch of picks for NHA. Going to go take a look at our projections and everything against their lines. So great site to play on if you guys haven't checked it out. We'll do a little bit of a promo for them in the middle of the show. But to dive right in, I'm here with Gundacker. Gun's going to provide all the analysis we need for this slate. And Gun, how you doing, buddy? How's your NBA season going so far? The first week and change in. How we doing? Any thoughts on the NBA overall?
Yeah, it became the NBA real fast. We got right into injuries and news and coaching rotations being crazy. The first 2 days weren't great, but the last week has been really, really good for me. So utilizing late swap is huge, and it's just such an edge day by day that makes me money. So if you don't have a life and you chill at home a lot like I do, they probably have a better time than others. But did I see you in first place a couple of days ago in the 555?
Not the 555, or if you mean $5.55, or not the 500.
Yeah. It was
whatever it was. Yeah, the Sunday FanDuel main slate.
I wasn't that far back, but I looked up. I was like, that's the homie. Let's go. So yours is going better, man. You're just dominating every sport this year.
Yeah, we're having a nice little year so far this year. So
is this your best year?
Keeps on going. We don't just set it all on fire between now and the end of the year. But yeah.
Is this your best year ever as a player? Because I swear you've been going nuts
by a wide margin. Yeah, I've had a few years in the past where I've had a couple of nice takedowns and five figures. But this was easily the biggest year I've had. So hopefully we keep it going. Thanks to a lot of credit to the tools from Stokastic and everything and all of that. But hopefully this tonight's slate or one of the upcoming ones, you flip that, and I'm looking up at you. So we'll keep that going. Everybody at the site's had a killer start. I mean, Steve DeColts has won 5 tournaments already. NBA is just absolutely on fire. A lot of guys killing it with the single game stuff for NFL, which we'll have a show later on tonight for. So a lot of stuff going on at the site, guys. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. But we're here to talk NHA. We will let me tell you guys to hit the like, hit the subscribe. Of course, you should know that by now. That keeps you alive for all the giveaways, the offers. Anytime we go live for a show, you get the little notification. You know how YouTube works, guys. We've also got a MGM no-brainer going on with BetMGM for the NBA tonight. So let's do that real quick. It's over at BetMGM. If you're taking advantage of let's see, I just wanted to make sure that if this is a brand new, I think this is for new MGM users only. It doesn't specify that here, but it's available in all states except for New York, Pennsylvania, Mississippi, and the province of Ontario. And what it is if you bet $10 on any game line in the NBA tonight, a pregame money line bet, you win $200 if anyone hits a 3. And there are 3-pointers made in every single NBA game since like 1983 or whenever the hell they put the 3-point line in. So yeah, go ahead, take advantage of that, guys. Free money. They're not going to be doing it for very long. Bet MGM, go over there and make a pregame money line bet. $10 to win $200 if any team hits a 3-pointer. Pretty easy. Take advantage of that. We will talk a little bit more specifics about No House Advantage, but again, it is the place to be taking advantage of these prop bets and all the tools that we have at the site, guys. People are just setting this site on fire. There's overlay every single night. We are cashing tickets over there like crazy, and you can use player props for NFL, MLB, NBA, PGA, MMA, all these different things. We'll get into a little bit more of that, but Gun, let's dive into some actual talking points for the slate. I think one of the places to start is, unfortunately, with the less fun to root for unders, because we've got a lot of extreme percentages. We always look at the percent probabilities for these props against where we've got guys projected against what these no house lines are. And this is for the card building contest where we're playing against the field. They also have contests where you can play against the house. The lines are a lot tighter. We're talking about the card building ones. So the high probabilities, again, are on the unders, and most of them, it's topped by Dwight Powell, but I don't really want to include him because he's only projected for a minute and a half. He's barely played this season. And if he doesn't get on the court, he doesn't count. So I think we leave him to the side, and maybe we start with Jonathan Kuminga on the PRA. Does that sound good?
Yeah. Okay. So it's good to know that, because I wasn't sure if DNP was. All right.
Yeah. So that's something we got confused about a bunch of different times last year. Emac clarified it for me the other day. If they don't actually take the court, it does not count, regardless of, we had thought originally it was if it was a pregame scratch. It doesn't count. DNP coach's decision does count, but it's not that. If he doesn't take the court, doesn't count. So we need minutes played. Do you have a sense of Powell playing tonight? Do you think he's going to be in the rotation tonight? Like I said, we got him projected at a minute and a half. He's played 7 minutes, one game all season.
I don't have any reason why he would now, unless like going
Timmy Hardaway's
forward,
questionable. Like they've got a few missing pieces, but that's not exactly a 1-for-1 replacement.
I would need like a lopsided scoreboard, a Wood, a Claybaugh, a McGee, one of those guys to be down to feel like we make him part of the plan if he's not part of the plan. So yeah, I wouldn't want to make that call.
I think that makes sense. So let's look at some of the ones that have realistic minutes projections, and we'll start with Kuminga, who's sitting at a 100% probability on the PRA under. It's set at a 17.5 line for the points plus rebounds plus assists, the PRA as we call it. We've got him projected at an 8.03 and not playing all that much. What are you seeing on the board for Kuminga here? Do you like that one? Do you seeing it any differently?
No, I think that lines up really, really well. He's one of those guys that, again, I would probably need somebody to be out to kind of disagree with what he's been doing thus far, or a lopsided game. And sometimes you get the Warriors in lopsided games, but they just came off the wrong side of a lopsided game. And now they get a Miami Heat that have been perennial scrappers, and it's just a 6-point spread. So can't really imagine that the projection would be too far off. So I can get behind that. The last outing against the Suns, Jonathan Kuminga didn't touch the court until the game kind of got lopsided. It wasn't all garbage time, came in the third quarter a little bit, but he didn't play in the first half. Mm-hmm. So he might be a change of pace type of player. But I do think he's going to be at least afforded a few minutes a game, unlike the Dwight Powell situation. And it looks like in the last 2 games, it's right there at the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter. So maybe that's that late Draymond Green breather. So I think it's safer to say he's going to get some minutes. They're not going to be valuable, high quality minutes. And it's going to be against a tougher Heat defense, especially if he crosses paths with guys like Bam Adebayo. So yeah, I'm game with the under.
Yeah, and just a kid who, a semi-inconsistent player that's young and that they're still trying to develop. So throwing him a few minutes a night, like you said, he's averaging over the first 4 games they've played, he's averaging 10.8 minutes a night. He's played every time. So it's not like a Powell situation where we've only seen him once and for very limited action this season. We can expect a reasonable amount of minutes. We've got him projected at 10.9, and that puts him at an 8.03 on the PRA projection. He's averaging a 5 PRA in the 10.8 minutes a night that he's gotten so far this season. So, I mean, just looking at the numbers, even if he comes around, let's say he goes half again on top of that minutes projection, I think we're still pretty clear of that line. So I think that one's a comfortable top of ticket. We've got another one sitting at 100%. And again, these are, they're mathematically 100%, but nobody's saying these are absolute guarantees. So don't misunderstand it when we say 100%. Let's call these 99ers and go from there. But Terrence Mann, again, on the PRA, we got a few PRAs in the row. Terrence Mann sitting at 100, and then I'll also throw you Duncan Robinson sitting at 99.6, essentially 100. Both guys, Terrence Mann against a 20.5 line on his PRA, and Duncan Robinson against a 14.5. How you seeing those?
So with Terrence Mann, I guess the pushback would be Kawhi out, but Paul George is on track to play. So I just as in case, but I still think I'd be comfortable with getting the under on what we're looking at here, 20.5. That one I would be like isn't for sure 100%. And then, but it's
if
still
George
way
doesn't
more
go, the Terrence Mann one comes down pretty strongly, right?
And last George was expected to play, but he's still on the report. But yeah, I still think he's pretty safe for the under at this spot with the implication that Paul George is playing, and then Duncan Robinson in this game script, if it becomes a shooter's got to shoot situation, maybe it's a little fluky, but this Tyler Hero explosion, since he's been part of the starting lineup, has just been the focal point of the offense. So I don't know that Duncan Robinson would be part of the plan unless they absolutely needed to fully space the court. And even then, I don't know that how many minutes it would take for me to expect over 14.5. So I'm with the under on both of them. I don't think I would price it at 99, 100% on both, but it was a strong probability on the over, like 70, 80 in my mind. So yeah, absolutely agree with that as two guys that we could throw in the wash.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. And, to support the Robinson one, in his 13.3 minutes a game, he's averaging so far a 9.8 PRA. So like you're saying, we've got him projected at 13.8 minutes. So like right on what he's averaging minutes wise. So he'd have to go at least a quarter again on top of his minutes to even approach that. And, if he's getting maybe 20 minutes, then maybe he gets there, but we're just not seeing that for him. So I think that one, another comfy one at the top of the ticket. We've got some others here. Terrence Mann, his rebounding alone on its own is sitting at a 98. We've got Darius Bazley, and his PRA is sitting there. Kuminga's rebounds alone. Santi Aldama, I think, is a semi-interesting one, because Santi, out of all these guys at the top end of the ticket here in terms of our probabilities for the PRA, his PRA is against a 27.6 minute projection. So it's a guy who's getting a decent minutes comp in our projections. He's averaging 30.8 minutes. So maybe talk about Santi and why he's projecting so highly, and then any of those other ones that you might like.
Yeah, so Santi's been starting in lieu of Jaren Jackson Jr., and outside of a big foul game against the Dallas Mavericks, he's offered over 30 minutes and mostly productive, at least from a per minute fantasy standpoint. A lot of these stats that have propped up his fantasy viability have actually been blocks and steals, which is not part of the PRA package. So it does make that a little bit more intriguing. And I do think that's one of those where the general player probably has this assumption that Santi's pretty good. I don't want to sweat the under. So maybe this is a lower own lean where we can trust the projections here, and it won't be as chalky as maybe it should be based on the probability. So I think that's just fine to throw in the blender.
Yeah, it's one that just kind of stood out. And I think that's a great call. It's one that probably in this mix of all these picks at the top, and there's a pretty good variety today. It's not one of those days where we see the same name 5 times, then another name 5 times, all with the top probabilities. There's a good mix of picks up here in the 90s. So yeah, that might be an under-owned one just based on how he started the season and the expectation of a good amount of minutes. But you're right, looking at the PRA, he's in the 30.8 minutes that he's averaged, only a 21.3, only quote unquote, only a 21.3 PRA average, and it's against a 24.5 line, and we're projecting him for 3 fewer minutes. So I think, those different things add up so that one makes some sense. And any of those other ones, or
I was gonna say, to follow up on that, and remember, 3 of these games in terms of scoring where you got double-digit shot attempts, that correlated with Dylan Brooks being out. Now Dylan Brooks is back in the mix. Right. So with Desmond Bane, with Dylan Brooks, with John Morant, probably going to continue to see single-digit shot attempts, especially with those 3 being active. So again, if you're a DFS player trying NHA, the blocks and the stocks might beef them up, your perception of them. But for PRA, we can definitely dabble with this, and I think we can easily justify it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And yeah, great call on the Brooks thing. I had that flagged for when we talk about Bain on one of the overs coming up. We'll tease that in a sec. Any of these other ones standing out to you? I mean, there's a lot above 90%. There's a full, let's see, counting the double entries, there are 19 of these individual props that are sitting above 90% on the board today based on our projections. So that's a pretty strong way to put together a prop. And guys, again, the projections are free over at the site for NHA. We also have free optimal lineups over at the site for NHA. So check it out. If you're playing at NHA at all, it is just an easy way to start printing money, or at least entering optimal cards. And if you dupe with some guys, hey, at least you're chopping, right? So it's the right way to do it. So any of those other ones standing out, any of like the individual rebound props? I had flagged Royce O'Neal as an interesting 95.9%er, but there's a bunch of them up there.
I think the Darius Baisley under is a fun one.
On the full PRA.
Yeah, just definitely throw the blanket over that.
Yeah, talk to us about that one.
Well, I mean, this is a back-to-back against the same team in a sense, not back-to-back in the sense of the day, but two matchups back-to-back. Baisley is in a front court blender that also involves guys like Mike Muscala, Kenrich Williams in the front court, Pokusevski, Jeremiah Robinson Earl. So it is cluttered at best. And I think he's just going to be one of those more than likely going to see 20 minutes at most on an average game. And I think his production has to be extremely high. This isn't the Baisley of last season where he was getting a ton of minutes. I think this is the SGA show. So I agree with the projection here. I think throwing a blanket over everything for him, PRA at 17.5, the Stokastic or not 17.5, at 20.5, the Stokastic projections giving us 7 points of a cushion there. I'm fine with that under. Definitely feel like he's going to be part of the rotation, but not enough to hit that.
Yep, think it makes a ton of sense. And it's another one, we've got him projected 13.72. He's averaged a 10.5 so far over the first 4 games there, but we're projecting him for 5 additional minutes from what he's averaged, and he's still that far below that PRA. So that just looks strong. It's sitting at 97%. Just play into the narrative that everybody loves to kick around in the various chats when we do shows and everything. Ben Simmons rebounding under is sitting at a pretty strong 93.6% against an 8.5 line. What do you think of Ben Simmons' chances of getting to an 8.5 rebounding total tonight?
Man, Ben Simmons debate last night. He finally came through for me. I think all of us that build projection models, Simmons is looking so good every day from a DFS perspective, and then last night he finally goes off and I'm light on him. I think he's tall and lanky enough to do it, but I think the Mavs are going to run such a slow pace, and they got scrappier rebounds that's one of those hard to sweat things. I did have Ben Simmons asterisks for his assist prop. I guess we'll talk about on the other side of the over unders. But yeah, I don't really have a strong lean one way or the other on the under. I would just trust the projection here.
Okay. Yep. I'm with you. A lot of times, if it's one that's, hey, this looks good, but I'm not totally sure, that might be one, like we were saying with the other one, that it just goes under own because everybody's going to be feeling that way about it. So if it maths out right and you trust the projections, you trust the site, sometimes those uncomfortable ones are the big winners. So it makes a lot of sense. Kind of like playing, the low owned crappy guys in DFS showdowns that turn into big winners. So let's talk real quick about the specifics of NHA. They're offering the most dynamic fantasy sports platform available these days, guys. It's different. It's more, well, it's as fun. It's more fun. It depends on your perspective, I guess, but it's as fun at least as your DraftKings, your FanDuel, your DFS sites. It's a different approach to playing these things. It's a lot more similar to prop betting. If you can't make prop bets in your state, you could probably play on NHA. So it's a good way to just exercise that muscle. It's a good way to use our projections about player props and everything. They have daily pick'em contests versus other people for a shot at winning $150,000 in cash. Those are ones that you're building these big lineup cards and ranking the confidence picks like we're talking about, playing against a bunch of other people who are building similar lineups. So that's where all of our projections, our optimal lineup tools come in handy. You can also play a versus the house game where you're just basically trying to hit all your picks, kind of like a big parlay card of player props. If you hit all of them, 20 times your entry. Not too bad. So there's a lot of different ways to approach this and stack up wins. You can bet up to 5 prop over-unders or individual player matchups across every major sports league, including NFL, baseball, NBA, PGA, MMA, NASCAR. sign up with a link down there somewhere in the description below to get a first match deposit bonus of up to $50. Also, make sure to check out our NHA lineup generators. And I've already talked about that a few times during this plug. You guys know it. There's projections, there's lineups over on the site. What are you waiting for? Go check it out. No house advantage. You can download the app. You can choose a contest, select your player props, climb the leaderboard when you make the correct picks. Go check them out, guys. No house advantage. Gun, let's jump over to the overs board. A little bit more fun. Couple at the top that compete, and we both teased them. The Desmond Bane assists and the Ben Simmons assists. Take them both off the board. What do you think of those two picks?
Ben Simmons was the more interesting one. Going back to I almost said spring training, preseason. What do they call it? I mean,
it was an interesting story back when spring training was going on too, right?
Yeah, we saw a bunch of big assist game, and then we've also kind of see it translate over at the major league level in the regular season. I miss baseball already. He's got 13.3 potential assists per game. He's sustaining right now a 36% assist rate. And so far, if we go game by game throughout this young season, 9, 8, 8, 5 assists on the end tab here. They have 5.5 as the line. He's hit that under once. And I think the more a guy like Ben Simmons gets minutes with this squad, the more chemistry. And we're seeing that evolve game by game. I think the over is pretty interesting. Our Stokastic projection on assists is 7.8. Linear lines up well with the 30+% assist rate, the potential assists per game. So I'm there on that over. We have a almost 91% probability of it hitting. That's one of my favorite calls here against a defense where you might have to move the ball a little bit more. Dallas known for that slow pace. Brooklyn's been kind of slow too. So playmaking duties are there.
Any worries about the psychological fallout from Kyrie throwing him the ball and yelling at him to shoot the ball, which apparently happened in the last game?
I mean, normally I would laugh at something like that, but he's been public about being,
right.
It's
not so exactly what you want happening.
I would pass it back. You shoot it.
Right. Yeah. I'm mostly kidding, but you never know. So that one is, it's lurking in the back of the mind. But yeah, I think that one, it projects out so strongly, 2.3 assists ahead of where the line is at 5.5, 90+%. What about the Desmond Bane assists against a 2.5 line? We've got him projected at 4.7, but you mentioned Brooks back in the swing of things here. So any thoughts about that one?
Yeah, it feels natural that another shooter to pass the ball to, you just accidentally get some assist. I was hoping to feel better when I ran the NBA on off court results. I was hoping for like a solid assist rate. He actually has a 9.5% or 11% assist rate since the beginning of last year with Brooks, Morant on the court with him and no Jaren Jackson. So not a big level sample size, but that's such a small line that if this game, if it stays competitive and all these guys, are on the court together against a porous defense like the Sacramento Kings, that's a couple outlet passes. That's a couple of catch and shoots that could go his way. So I would probably lean the over. If I wasn't looking at the over probability, I don't think I would have came up with 92%, but I certainly would have came up with probably well above 50%. And, that's way better than the coin flip. So, yeah, I'll sign up for it. I feel a little bit better about the Ben Simmons one, but I'm right there on Bane as one of my top 6-5 picks of the slate.
Yeah, I'm with you on that take, and it's largely because it is just so low at 2.5. You project them for whatever. I mean, we've got them projected at 4.7, so we're already basically double what that line is in terms of the projection. But if you're thinking in terms of it's downgraded, that's not really where he's going to be. He could still stumble into 3 assists in an open up game like this. So I like that spot. Any of the other overs standing out for you? The rest of them are sitting 83% as the next highest against some of those 90s, and we've got more 90s on the unders, but I just think overs are more fun to talk about. So any of the other overs standing out for you here?
Yeah, they are. Is John Wall listed at half a 3-pointer? That's fun.
He is.
No Kawhi here. He's only been about 20-25 minutes during this stretch here, but in each game he's taken 3 or 4 threes, and there's only been one game, the first game against the Lakers, where he didn't hit at least one. So if you just want to sweat every time he catches the ball, maybe that's one that we can have some fun with.
Yeah, I think that would just be a fun one to have on the card, like you're saying, just a fun one to chase. If he hasn't made one in the fourth quarter and you're watching that game, that'll just be a blast to have on your card. So I would go for that one. But yeah, like you're saying, 3.7 a game so far, making one a game in his 21.8 minutes. So maybe we see a little bit more from him tonight. If no George, does that one go up for you a little bit? Maybe, just on the idea that maybe he's taking seeing a few more minutes.
Yeah, but I don't want to get too married to the possibility of that because the verbiage seems to indicate
it does seem
that.
Yeah. What about KD on the same prop? The 3-pointers made, sitting at 1.5. We've got him going for a little bit more than that. What are you thinking on that one?
That one I'm a little less so like the Desmond Bain, great point by James in chat that Sacramento's so bad defensively. That total is 236. With this game, Nets on a little bit of a coming back from a little road stretch, less implied points, and Mavs are a little bit slower. So not sure if I can bang on the same possessions, but I will say this. If we're on the Ben Simmons assists, we can correlate it just fine with the KD 3-point shots, and I think that's still a low enough number that the volume should be there. He just might have to hit at a higher efficiency than some of the others. At the same time, 2 of his 4 games so far to Toronto Raptors, lanky, scrappy defensively, Siakam, Milwaukee, Giannis. So it's going to be a better matchup in this spot than maybe half of his game so far. So I'd be there. I'm not super confident, but I will say that correlates well with our Ben Simmons cards. And I love correlation, especially on a smaller slate.
That was going to be my closer question for you. I was just cooking it up in my head. You took it right out of my brain. Yep. So I agree. I think that's a good down card correlation pick. If you're putting the Simmons one up fairly high, you could, arguably do the same thing with KD points is sitting right there, 74% versus this one was 77%. So there's some other stuff on the board. Any last one to throw in there that's standing out to you on the board here before we jump off?
Man, I'm trying to have some fun with something on this board, but it's just one of those lazy 4 gamers. Maybe
a ton to work on.
Maybe Tyler Hero points at 16.5 down there. As part of this offense, it's been like him and Jimmy offering 20 points and go from there. And the only games that really were soured on were lopsided games. There was a 20-point game against Portland, or that Raptors game where you got in big foul trouble. Otherwise, in a competitive game, we got a 6-point spread against a team that's going to make you score. I think Tyler Hero, if that game stays within 6, has to offer 20 plus. And for the time being, I think we still get some bench 6-man scoring props. So I think I'm interested with Tyler Hero points over.
Okay. I like that one a lot. Yeah, sitting at 16.5. We've got him projected 19.6, 24.5% usage rate to start the season, 32 minutes a game, 59.1% true shooting. Nothing not to like about that. He's averaging 3 points above. He's averaging what we've got him projected for. And to your point, I could see him going for a decent amount more than that tonight. So that one's sitting there pretty nice. Also taking 7 threes a game, making 2.4. So there's that upside. Just if he has a decent night from 3, you're halfway there if he makes a few of them, So like that one a lot. Guys, we appreciate you hanging out with us. One more time, we do have projections for free over at Stokastic for No House Advantage, projections and the lineup tool for you guys to find the best possible combinations of these picks. Don't forget to cash in on the Bet MGM, bet $10 on any NBA money line and you win $200. It's a no-brainer bet over at Bet MGM. We've been brought to you by our pals at No House Advantage. Great site. Go check them out. Download it from the App Store. Check them out. Great site to play these player props on. Stick around or come back at 5:30. We've got 5:30 the NBA Deeper Dive, 6:30 the NBA Live Before Lock show, and following up 7 o'clock the NFL Showdown Live Before Lock. So those will be going simultaneously for a little bit. A lot going on today. Go and tell people where to find you.
Twitter, YouTube /Gundacker.
There we go. Thank you very much, everybody. I've been Terry McBride. That's been Gundacker. This has been the No House Advantage Strategy Show.